Going live. Going live. Going live.
And we're live.
And
Hey,
live.
We're early.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello. Hello.
hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Have you been playing Super Mario Wonder?
I have not yet. No,
Oh, okay. It's fun.
I will be though.
I'm not a big
I have
Mario
my
fan.
Super Mario shirt and I got a Mario tattoo.
I mean, it's cool. I have been playing a little bit of it, but I've never been a huge Mario person. Mike, weigh in on the Mario.
I've never been big into Mario either. I mean, they're fun. It's not something I seek out.
It's
I've still been doing Baldur's Gate all the time.
I've always been more of a Zelda guy. That's just my jam.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't finished Zelda yet. So
Oh well, that I mean,
I need to
yeah,
get
Tears of
going on
Kingdom
that.
long. Willis, are Mario, Zelda, which? How do you go?
I lean more towards Zelda.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
All
Bring back F-Zero.
One of these days.
Oh, yes.
One of these days,
One
man.
of
That
these
GameCube one. That GameCube one was hard. Like I remember, like I was like,
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
cool. I was liking the beginning of it, then all of a sudden it just like difficulty. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm done with this.
I loved the custom F-Zeros you could make in the F-Zero in the GameCube one. I spent hours and hours just tweaking those designs.
I was not creative enough to do that.
Ziv says Kirby.
Kirby,
yeah.
Kirby, the one that lives through anything, right? Isn't that the joke? Because he was in the trailer of Super Smash. Oh, I need to bring up the chat. There we go. Hello,
Anyone for Metroid?
welcome. Well, that's Elena.
That's
So if
Elena,
Elena
okay,
was
yeah.
here, she'd be like, "What are you talking about? Metroid all the way, losers." Just kidding. She wouldn't say it. Actually, that would be hilarious if she called us losers. Yeah.
I need to play the new one of those. I haven't played the new one that came out earlier this year.
Dread.
Yeah, actually, that
Yeah.
has been. I mean, Super Metroid's awesome. I didn't play it at the time though. I was more of a Castlevania guy, of the Metroidvania kind of crossover. But Dread, I liked a lot. I did like that. Dread was my first Metroid that I ever beat. So,
I haven't had as much time for gaming this year due to personal reasons, obviously.
why? What happened? Just kidding.
And this is the worst year to fall behind on. Like the games that have come out this year are ridiculously good. And my backlog is now eternal.
I hear you.
I've only
And they're
been
all
out-
huge.
I hear you.
You got like
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, you got Baldur's Gate, you got Starfield. All of them are like, 40, 50 at the minimum hours.
I'm 85 hours into Persona 5 Royal. I'm so close. I got
85%?
85 hours.
Oh, hours. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. Which I believe
mean-
is close. I think I'm close, but Jesus. Oh man, I just want to get that off, and then Alan Wake 2. I mean, that's probably the one I'm gonna binge this weekend. Though I've never played the first one. I played
That's
the first
pretty
one. I never
looking game.
beat the first one. So
Well, this week on Game Pass,
this
like
week on Game Pass.
yes, on was it Like a Dragon Ishin?
Did that just come out?
Well, it came out on Game Pass. The
on
game's
Game
been out.
Pass.
It's just
Oh, okay.
since I have Game Pass, I was like, oh, thank goodness I waited. So I'm gonna be playing that this week as
Yeah.
well. So I'll be busy.
Friend of the show, Retro Sean says, I have 25 years of backlog. Yes,
Oh.
that is true. Anyway, hopefully you don't have 275 episode of backlog of the Full Nerd. But hey, you know what? If this is your first Full Nerd, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Welcome.
You know what? Do they need to go back and watch the other ones? You don't have to. I mean, we're canonically we're episodic.
For the fun of it.
Yeah.
If you can, you should.
But yeah, I know I was always a person to go back and listen to old podcasts. Like if I picked up in the middle of a podcast, I would go back and listen to when I had time, and sometimes that was fun. But I don't know. I haven't gone back to listen to our first episodes in a long time. So
I do that for podcasts where it's not so like we're news focused. So if I go back and watch one from 6 months ago, I'm like, oh, I knew all this.
When I find a new Dungeons and Dragons podcast, I start from the very beginning and just
Yeah.
binge all the way through.
Nice. Goner Me Leggy says they've watched and listened to the last 150-ish. Nice.
Oh, glad to have you.
Podcast badge for you. You're doing it right. We're glad to have you. All right, we're gonna talk about some PC news here. That's what we do on this show. If you're just joining us, we are the Full Nerd. We talk about PCs and we talk about hardware and sometimes software, but mostly news related. And there's some news. It's not just me reviewing CPUs, though I do need to shoot the i5 review. I have all the numbers almost ready.
Getting there.
So, yeah. So look for that.
Takes time.
Yeah, testing always takes time. But yeah, we're talking about Threadripper, all that fun stuff. So yeah, no, I think I have everything ready. Feeling pretty good.
Nice.
Mike, Brad, you feeling good? You feeling ready?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling good, born ready.
Born ready. All right.
Nice.
Well, let's. Are you ready to start the show?
I'm ready.
We got an ad.
We got an ad read.
We got an
here.
ad read.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's do this since I just came back. A little jet lag.
Welcome
but
back.
I'm good.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Okay. This episode is sponsored by Falcon Northwest and their kick-ass custom-built gaming and workstation PCs. Head over to falconnorthwest.com and configure the PC of your dreams.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about how Threadripper is back, RTX Super rumors, and how Windows 11 could be slowing your PC. Little stubble. Just a little bit. Welcome to episode 273 of The Full Nerd. I am your fill-in host for this week, Adam Patrick Murray, but I am not alone. I've got two fine gentlemen on the line here. The first one is Brad Choco Taco Charkis. Hello, Brad. Oh, and he's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Okay, he's having...
Oof.
Yeah, you know...
He's just getting that stern.
Yeah.
stare right
I was,
now.
I was like, man, he's just intimidating me with that 1,000-mile stare. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And there he drops.
And, yeah.
So Brad is having internet issues at his house. Glad to have you, Brad. Hopefully you can join back in right at the beginning of the show. You know what? Let's go to Mike Kreider. Mike Kreider, good to have you.
Howdy. It's nice to be here.
And fresh off of vacation is controlling the verticals and horizontals. It's Willis Lai. He's back.
Hello, everyone. Guten Morgen. Just trying to use up all my German right now because I didn't get to use too much while on my trip. Because when I try and the locals see me struggle, they're just like shaking their head like, English? And I just shrug and like, yes. So yes, I'm going to use a little bit of German today, hopefully.
They're like, is that what were you trying to take? You know what? Just speak English. It's okay. We know the English. It's it's good to try.
They're like, time is money, so don't waste my time. Just what do you want? What do you want?
Time is
Really.
money. Time is money. And hopefully Brad will be back to talk about this fun stuff. I'm glad to have you back though, Wills.
Thank you.
It's been a number of weeks.
Thanks. And
we've missed you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. And really thanks to Dan Masaoka for filling in and helping out over the show.
He filled in. He brought his Dan charm,
I
his
love
usual
Dan.
Dan charm. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Had some good questions. But you're back running the
back.
show. And we have some news. You know, I don't really have any tidbits to hit. So I think we're just gonna run right into it. Yes. So Threadripper, AMD has brought back Threadripper non-Pro. I mean, they've updated both Threadripper Pro and non-Pro. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Either way, Threadripper, like I remember the early days of Ryzen, and when Threadripper came out, I was just like, oh my god, look at all these cores. And they updated it a couple generations, and then it's been kind of stagnant, or I should say on the consumer end of it. They were keeping going with the Pro line, but a lot of people were like, no, I need my Threadripper back. Well, guess what? It is back. Threadripper 7000, our esteemed colleague, Mark Hockman, has a write-up over on PC World. I'm going to drop it in the chat if you want to check all the notes with me. But why don't we show the slide, Willis,
All right.
the first one that has the model numbers on
Yes.
it. So there's three. So there's non-Pro and there's Pro. We're mostly going to talk about the non-Pro here because that's kind of what we cover. But there's three of the non-Pro Ryzen Threadrippers coming back. It's the 7880X with 64 cores of goodness, max boost of 5.1, and then down the stack there's a 7970X, which is 32 cores, 64 threads with 5.3 gigahertz boost. And then the bottom non-pro version is a 7960X with 24 cores, 48 threads, and also 5.3 gigahertz. We're not going to go over the full details, but I have a little bit in my notes. The 64 core has a base of 3.2, boost of 5.1, 256 megabytes of L3 cache, 320 megabytes cache total, and that's going to clock in at $5,000, $5,000 US dollars.
Wow.
It's a lot of money. But hey, if time is money and you do a lot of work and you need those cores, that's a lot of cores, baby. The down the stack, the 7970X is 2500 and the 7960X is 1500. All these are 350 watt parts. They're all unlocked for some overclocking, and I've never heard too much about people overclocking Threadripper, so I don't know how much you can push it. 4 channels of error checking DDR5 memory, 48 lanes of PCIe 5.0, but a total of 88 usable PCIe lanes, including PCIe 3. The Pro versions actually have switched to 12 core per CCD, but the non-Pro versions continue with 8 cores per CCD. But now there's 32 megabytes of cache per CCD. So definitely some uplift. I mean, they just announced it. There's no reviews, anything like that. There's a generational uplift, according to AMD, of IPC uplift of 15%. If you want to show that other slide with the performance metrics that they kind of showed off. Obviously, this is aimed at power users. So they kind of break off some of their early benchmarks into software and sciences, media and entertainment, design and manufacturing, architecture, engineering, and construction. So they showed off some different applications here compared to a Intel Xeon W9 3495X, which is a 65-core CPU. And I mean, they're showing good uplift, anywhere from 4% in keyshot rendering to 94% in Metashape. I've never heard of either of those applications, but sounds cool. Mike Kreider, how many cores do you need? If you were to sit down and calculate how many cores you need at home.
Gosh, this is embarrassing. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many cores I'm actually using right now. I think it's 8 cores. So yeah, I was wondering, like, the most intensive media application I use is Photoshop, and then it's just a bunch of gaming. So I don't see how I could ever justify this kind of expense. It's super cool that you can make this. I can see how people making just monster workstations would need it. It's in a universe completely separated from mine.
Well, yeah, and I like that Threadripper non-pro existed in this interesting spot, and for somebody like us, for video production, like I feel like we're on the cusp of needing like all those cores. Like I can imagine a world where a rendering workstation would be awesome, but we don't really shoot that much video that, like, you know, it's like, oh man, we need to set up some renders and just go kind of thing. But
we're talking 8K videos.
I know, yeah, right.
Those, right.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I guess maybe the closest would be when we have to render out Full Nerd, because we do like an archival version, we'll do a CMS version, we'll do the audio version. So like it's you know, a 2-hour podcast that needs to render multiple versions at the same time. So, you know, I flirted with that idea of having such a powerful machine, and the non-pro Threadrippers were kind of where that fun spot was at. And I remember people were even getting into like gaming. They were like, oh man, imagine if I can do all this work, but how is it for gaming? It wasn't always the best for gaming, but I mean, it could get the job done. But yeah, and then
for gaming on these, like the current X3D stuff with that Vcache would it be better, or is it just a matter of performance versus dollar?
I don't think ever Threadripper's been better. I think it's just more like, oh hey, how good can I game on this work machine? You know, like, oh, I've got this work machine, but how good can I make it to game? I mean, there was other configurations where people like broke it up into different applications. Like, oh hey, I have oh god, why can't I think it? It's not partitioning. virtualization, where it's like, oh, I've got all these cores that I can dedicate to different virtualization applications, and while the work's off doing one, I can game on the other. So yeah, I don't know. I've never chased down the rabbit hole too much, but I'm glad it does exist. And I know AMD has at least said like, oh hey, we thought the Pro version of Threadripper could be beneficial to people who need it, but there was that gap between the top end desktop, mainstream desktop chip, which I mean in my mind, 16 core 32 thread is still like we're in a damn good spot for that.
Really good.
Yeah. Oh hey, Brad's back. Hello, Brad.
Yeah, I've been lurking. I'm glad you can hear me. I have to. Hello, internet. My internet's acting up, so I just had to plug it in my phone, and it freaked out my headset. So I'll be muting so I can hear you guys through my laptop. Fun stuff going on.
Yeah, fun stuff. So Brad, we were talking about who Threadripper is for and why those people are glad to have it back. What's your take on what's your take on that?
Yeah, I've been following you guys for a couple minutes. Just
okay.
I wasn't sure if my microphone was working, so I didn't want to.
I didn't hear you pop in. It was weird. Zoom didn't give the little chime.
I think you can look at if you go to the article about this, or if you look at the chart that Willis just showed. If you look at the performance charts, I think that kind of tells you who these are for. It's heavily loaded on, studio creation, basically. I remember when Threadripper 3000 came out, AMD was banging the drums real hard about how, mid-sized movie companies and stuff use this for rendering, so on and so forth. If you look at the chart, it also has Unreal Engine compilation, Chromium compilation, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So this is definitely a prosumer chip. That being said, I'm really glad it exists because it was a bummer when Threadripper 3000 came out, and after that they said, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. High-end desktop's dead. Intel's high-end desktop's been dead. Before then, it was like, stop, he's already dead. And they obviously skipped out Threadripper 5000 series. So I was really encouraged to see this news because to me, Intel's 14th gen was deeply underwhelming, as we talked about last week. So to have AMD follow it up a few days later with, hey, here's the most badass chips that have ever released that you can run Windows on. I'm glad they exist. It's nothing I'll ever personally buy, but there definitely is a market for it.
No, and I actually chatted a little bit with Gordon about this when the news came out. But yeah, he was like, does it? He was wondering, does that mean they just have an excess of chips? Like, do they just have such a good supply? Is that where they're like, okay, you know what, let's bring it back? Or if it truly was like, hey, we need to spin this up. There is enough of a use case that it's worth us dedicating, manufacturing to spin this up. Because I mean, the Pro versions have been there, and it's definitely needed for a lot of stuff. But I also I feel like the Pro versions were definitely corporations, bigger companies who were buying a lot of machines, where the non-Pro versions were kind of smaller companies, for lack of a better word, right, and then some people who were just who were kind of the enthusiasts that wanted it, the enthusiasts that were getting it themselves and building it themselves. They weren't going to move to Pro, but then the small companies either couldn't go to Pro because it was too much, or just stuck with the 3000 version for a bit. Yeah, I mean I know that friend of the show Steve Burke over at Gamers Nexus had their editing machines were all on Threadrippers, and then they ended up moving off of them to Intel-based systems. So yeah, it's a cool area to keep up with. I'll be curious to see how the reviews come out. Maybe we'll build one just for fun, just to have it. I do remember the first time I got to hold a Threadripper CPU, and I mean that thing is still massive compared to any other chips that are out there.
I've still never actually held one.
Oh, you
haven't had a chance to? Yeah, this is for as long as it's been out. I didn't get to the different events the year that they were first announced. I've seen them in systems. I've played with systems running them, but I've just never held one.
We still have a ton of older generation ones. Maybe we'll just send one to you, just so you can hold it in your hand.
I mean, I held that giant one that we had in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It's not quite the same.
Not quite the same. Not quite the same.
The one thing I find interesting about this generation of Threadripper is the previous ones had 12 and 16 core offerings. for people who needed all the extra memory capacity and quad channel and stuff like that. And this one, they're just going, hey, if you want all that stuff, you got to go 24 cores or up. So they're clearly refining this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a mixture of there was actually some demand for this, and they probably do have a ton of supply from leftover Epic chips. So win-win.
But I know there were some people like, okay, well, that's cool they're bringing it back, but why even have the bottom one, the 7960X with 24 cores? Because I mean that's pretty damn close to what we can get in desktop parts. But I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, there are some people who just need a ton of PCIe lanes.
Yep.
That it's just like, hey, like PCIe lanes, error correcting memory, that kind of stuff is like important to them, and core count isn't. So yeah, and for those kind of people, yeah, a pro version is just way overkill, or cost wise. So yeah.
And I mean, going from 16 to 24 cores is still a 50% improvement, or whatever that is.
For sure, yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's more we could talk about the architecture and the all that kind of stuff, how it compares to Intel, but I'm just not steeped in that HEDT kind of stuff, and especially not the workstation kind of stuff. So anything else to talk about with Threadripper?
Not off the top of my head. If you need it, you know it. If you want it, you know that too. Those are the only two reasons to really go get it.
Yeah, well, we got a super chat from Space Channel 5. Ooh la la! Thank you. €5. No, euros. L. What's the L? Pounds. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because I spent euros recently, so I got that mixed up.
Oh
myself.
yeah. If you need more than 16 cores for work, then that's what a rack with 4,000 cores is for. Yes, all the cores. Before we get to the next segment, and I remembered this time, let's stop for a second to thank our friends over at Falcon Northwest, the maker of dream PCs. I have a Fragbox here. This is the newest iteration of the Fragbox with a 4090, a full-size fat 4090. There's a little video with a tour if you want to see the insides. It was funny. Before we started the show, Mike was like, "Oh man, this looks like one of those LAN boxes that you can carry around." And yeah, the built-in handle on the top is pretty fun. I've always worried that, like, oh man, how sturdy is this thing? But after carrying this thing around for years in its various iterations, I don't feel like it's gonna. I would feel comfortable carrying this thing around.
Can you work out with it?
Oh yeah, no. This is I can't even lift it with one hand over here. This is a dense, powerful machine. Yeah, and it's not just about the guts though. It's also Falcon Northwest is lauded for their support. They have this Falcon overnight service. So within the first year of getting a Falcon Northwest machine, if you have run into a problem with your PC and they can't get it fixed with their support, they will pay for overnight both ways to get you back up and running. Because a lot of people rely on Falcon Northwest for work, kind of like what we're talking about with the Threadripper stuff. I'm sure Falcon Northwest has Threadripper options. And yeah, when you need work done, you don't want your machine to be sitting around just being like, all right, well, crap, I can't get work done. Then yeah, it's definitely one of the reasons to get a Falcon Northwest box or check them out. Friend of the show, Davina Duckworth, says luggable case. Yes, this is yes. Luggable. It is definitely luggable. But yeah, it's heavy duty. Actually, I feel like I could use this as like a shield. Like if I had like a sword. Oh, you've got swords. Brad's got swords.
Got your own Captain America shield,
right?
I have a Fragbox too. I'm actually separate from the sponsorship thing. I'm actually testing. I think I mentioned this last week. I'm testing one, reviewing one.
Oh, it was a Fragbox.
Really is good. Yeah, it was a Fragbox.
Okay, I thought it was a Talon.
Nope, I asked for a Fragbox because I'm working with limited space. So we went through the whole consultation setup kind of process to see what's in there.
And that is not sponsored. That's
not sponsored whatsoever. This is me, my honest opinions. It's going to come out sometime later this week. Spoiler alert, I'm actually highly impressed. And again, that has nothing to do with the sponsorship. It's definitely a carryable around, very powerful case.
Yeah, it's a lot of power. Like it's hard to describe like just how dense and powerful it feels, like the actual build materials, but then also the power inside of it. So, and then friend of the show Ziv says Brad is not impressed with Adam's lifting skills.
Yeah.
I will say this is my bad elbow. This is my bad elbow. So anyway,
Use your good arm.
It's funny. The reason I asked for that one to be sent to me is because I'm not dealing with space, so I was looking for one that I can easily carry around with one hand.
There you go. There you go. Speaking about carrying around with one hand, hopefully these new NVIDIA RTX Super GPUs are carryable around with one hand. We got some rumors swirling. Brad, I know Brad usually doesn't like to talk about rumors, but he was mentioning in our Slack, he's like, oh, we can talk about the rumors, and I was like, okay, let's do it. So
Mike actually covered it.
Yeah, Mike covered it. Mike, why don't you give us the lowdown on the rumors of 40 series supercards?
Sure. It's not that complicated. We're seeing some low-level rumors coming from sources that are connected to OEMs that say the RTX 4070 and RTX 4080 will get refreshed forms with more RAM and boosted memory buses. And that's about the start and finish of it. The RTX 4070, I don't have it off the top of my head, boost up from 12 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes, and the 4080 would be 16 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes. Both of those, as a sort of shorthand, are being referred to as the RTX 4070 Super, 4080 Super. They're not entirely certain that's what they're going to be called. It's been a couple of generations since they used that nomenclature. There's already a 4070 Ti, obviously, but there isn't a 4080 Ti, so there could be some fudging over that. The source is videocards.com, which we're generally very reliable on. So, I mean, we pass on tons and tons of rumors, especially when it comes to things like graphics cards. These seem fairly solid, fairly reliable. It's interesting because last year, rather publicly and in a very embarrassing way, NVIDIA decided to drop one of the SKUs for the 4080, specifically because of the RAM included in the value proposition, or rather the lack of value. So this is kind of coming back around full circle.
Yeah. They haven't used the Super nomenclature since the 20 series. Brad, remind me, were those also price increases, or did they slot in where the original prices were?
No, that generation closely mirrored this one. NVIDIA got off first with the 20 series, the 2080 Ti and all that. Mm-hmm. They launched their lineup straight off the gate with Ti models. And then AMD's Radeon 5000 series came out and just vastly outperformed it price to performance wise in the mid-range. They had already shot their Ti model names off. So to combat AMD's mid-range strength, they refreshed the lineup with Super, and the prices were slightly lower to maintaining the same, but with decent jumps in performance. And it's looking very much like a reflection of that exact same kind of scenario this time around, it seems like.
And did they continue to sell the non-supers, right? So
for a brief period of time, they did. It depended on the card. I believe the 2060. Some of them went away, some of them didn't. I'm not even going to try to remember that right now. That was many years ago.
Well, I do remember there was at least a visual refresh where the non-super cards, the middle plate between the two fans, went from kind of like a matte black to a shiny finish.
A mirror. Yeah, those are the super cards.
Yeah. Is there any rumors about a design change on the supers here?
Haven't heard anything like that. All of these, take them with a grain of salt, although it is popping up quite a bit. I was watching Moore's Law is Dead. Tom over there. Mm-hmm. We've had him on the show before. Mm-hmm. He's definitely, hit or miss, but he has plenty of hits as well. And he was saying, according to his sources, final designs aren't fully locked in yet. So if that's the case, then we wouldn't know about, physical designs if the GPU configurations aren't quite locked in. But again, take that with a grain of salt. But there's an awful lot of smoke around this. And I think that increasing the memory capacity on the 4080 might make it more appealing, especially if they're still going to ask $1,200. I'm hoping prices get reset a little bit, but I don't think they're going to.
Well, wasn't there a lot of smoke around a 4090 Ti or a Titan RTX? Like what?
Yep.
Is that? Do you think the smoke was like, oh, it cleared and it's just not coming out, or could it come out as part of this?
To have something like that, they would have had to use a little bit more. Like the 4090 is already most of the way full of that chip, but has a little bit left.
Mhm.
They would have had to fully utilize that chip, which requires binning, and probably jack more juice into it. I'm guessing they probably designed something like that to have in their back pocket in case RDNA 3. Are we on 3 now? Yeah. RDNA 3 came out kicking butt and taking names. So that was like a break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. In this case, NVIDIA's already said we're not going to have a new architecture for GeForce until 2025. So, mid-cycle refresh is standard. And I'm hoping pricing reset somewhat, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, because that was something else I read. I can't remember if we had an article or not, but I definitely noticed it recently going to Newegg. The 4090 prices have like started to like. Sorry, the prices have started to increase a little bit, but also the availability of cards seem to kind of go down. Some of them have just like been sold out for a bit, and I was like, huh. Yeah, not so. Maybe that points to some sort of 4090 Ti or refresh, or who knows? But
yeah, it could be. Could be it could be that. It could be they're anticipating whatever the 4080 Ti or 4080 Super is being close enough. Like the 3080 Ti was basically a 3090. If they can use these massive, almost full fat GPUs, the 4090 GPUs, and shift them over to AI, I'm sure they would like to. So if they can get a somewhat cut down 4080 Ti or Super that has 16 to 20 gigabytes of memory, that would probably make a lot more fiscal sense for them. And so they might be letting 4090 die down, but who knows? There's a lot of different ways they could be doing things here because AI has just made it very hard to guess what NVIDIA is doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I see it all the time. People being like, "Oh, NVIDIA has forgotten about the gamers," so and they're just so hyper focused on getting all that AI money. Which, hey, you know what? This is capitalism, so I guess get that money.
I mean, those flagship AI chips are. Sources or industry reports say that they sell for $25,000. So if I was NVIDIA, I would prioritize selling those too.
You can't hate them. You can't hate them for that. I guess get that money.
Get that money.
Maybe they're just jealous. They're not getting that money. But so okay. Do you think though? Because right now the I feel word on the street. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the 7800 XT is that sweet spot? If you're looking for an awesome card, that 7800 XT is a damn good price. We did see the 4070 normal prices drop just a little bit, right? Didn't they drop like $50?
Yep. I'm not sure if they still did, but they did when it first launched, the 7800 XT.
So, but I mean, introducing a super card, do you think that will change the equation at all? Because I mean, a 4070 Super is still, I mean, even if it slots in at the same price, that's still more than a 7800 XT. Like, do you think it like maybe catches up with the 7800 XT? Like, yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to see how it all goes. The interesting thing this generation is that NVIDIA's cards rock for what they do. They're just overpriced. So maybe in an ideal world, what would be is these super variants drop in at the previous MSRP, and NVIDIA knocks $100 off of everything else. In which case, those original non-super versions would be a lot more appealing and could take it pretty hard to AMD. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean,
and keep in mind, we're making these comparisons as if they're direct one-to-one comparisons in hardware. But if I remember right, NVIDIA is still sitting at more than 80% of the desktop card market. Like, they make a card, they're going to sell it.
Yeah.
They do not have to compete directly with AMD on every single point if they don't want to.
Yeah, we've pointed out many times is that, hey, they as much as a lot of people love to bitch and moan about NVIDIA pricing, people still keep buying it. So what incentive do they have to change things around? So yeah, I mean, I do wonder. I do wonder. I mean, there's a lot of people who I see this news or any other kind of GPU news, and a lot of times after the discussion has died down, people are just always like, "Man, I hope there's a price reset sometime," and just like, I mean, come on, realistically, is that ever going to happen? Do you think we're ever going to be like, hey, you know what? The next couple generations are going to be cheaper. Like, are we just here with these prices to stay?
We're getting too close to the cutting edge, and they're figuring out a lot of other ways to use GPUs that aren't just gaming. So, and inflation. So I think what we have is what we have.
I mean, without wishing to go into things that are outside of our wheelhouse, I think it's possible to see a big reset, but if that happens, the prices of graphics cards are not going to be the primary thing that we're worried about at that point. Because if that happens, everything else is going to be very, very bad.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a lot of people. Here we go. We got an Endors meme on YouTube says if AI crashes, but also I feel like we had that after the crypto pandemic crash. There was a big crash and things leveled off, but it never got to that like dumpster fire kind of like, oh man, you can get a GPU. Anyone can get a GPU for cheap.
No,
it was more like it came down to where it should have been, a couple years before that, but it was still like everyone. I don't know if maybe we were just so excited it felt like, oh man, these things are going to be like half off.
Yeah, even in 2022, we're like, hey, you can finally get a 3070 at MSRP now.
Right. Which was a big deal for sure, but it never it never just really, really tanked. And I don't know if AI crashes would do that either. Tell you the truth, but
one thing only tangentially related to this that I found interesting, I recently updated our roundup of the best graphics cards ahead of Prime Day 2, the priming, and AMD and Intel dominate anything under $500. Like, I know most people go out there and buy NVIDIA, and NVIDIA still is like, their software features are outstanding. Their high-end cards are really good performers, albeit mostly with questionable pricing. But if you're looking to spend $500 or less, like, don't necessarily just go buy NVIDIA. Go check out the AMD and Intel options, because what NVIDIA is offering for under $500 frankly isn't compelling compared to the competition, even with DLSS 3 available.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the other flip side of the coin, I guess. I mean, they've shown this for the past couple of years, and you even kind of alluded to it too. Is like, hey, like the actual what we can actually push for just pure raster performance is one thing, and they're trying to say, hey, the future is also these other features like DLSS, upscaling, frame gen, all that kind of stuff, which I know a lot of people are down on, and they just love pure render performance, but it's something at least.
I think they're right. I think that is going to eventually be where it goes. Like, I don't think Alan Wake 2 would be possible without all these different technologies. Like, it supports mesh shaders, it's path tracing, it's all that kind of stuff. And that all requires the AI upscaling. But I think at this point in the evolution of graphics cards, you still need to offer a compelling, complete package.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes price. And I just don't think NVIDIA's hitting the price part of it under $500. Across the stack, like the 4080 is way too high price. So is the 4070 Ti. At least those are, kick butt cards in every other sense of the word.
Yeah, and apart from price, I mean, the biggest thing that people will nail NVIDIA for compared to AMD is the VRAM. So, I mean, at least this ups the VRAM capacity. I mean, it's definitely good for gaming, but also for me, at least, like video editing on DaVinci Resolve, which is more GPU bound than CPU bound. I've always wanted to do. I'm planning in the future to do some DaVinci Resolve GPU and CPU testing. But because I actually wonder, I do wonder how much VRAM impacts that kind of performance, just personally on my workloads. So
that'd be great. I'd love to see that.
Well, it's all rumors for now. So we will see what happens in the future. But until then, hopefully your Windows 11 machine is not running slow because of it's not a bug, it's a feature, I guess. So
yeah,
Brad, what the hell's going on with Windows 11?
Something interesting that I'm surprised hasn't come up before, but Tom's Hardware noticed it and did a bunch of excellent testing on it and discovered that Windows 11 Pro by default has BitLocker's software encryption on your full drive. BitLocker also offers optional hardware encryption, but it defaults to on with the software.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're using Windows 11 Pro and that's on by default, you're not given an option during the setup process to disable it. You'd have to have manually gone in there and disabled it. It can affect your storage performance drastically because the entire time you're reading or writing to the drive, it's encrypting it, which hurts both CPU as well as your SSD. And some of the best case scenarios are about 20% lower performance. Some of the worst case scenarios are up to 45% worse performance, especially in random IO.
So
swaps.
So what are those use cases that are getting hit? Are we talking like, oh man, you're gonna gaming, you're just screwed across the board, or is it only?
It's storage heavy.
Okay.
So like if you're using Windows 11 Pro because you're compiling a bunch of stuff,
mm-hmm.
or you're doing video editing.
Mm-hmm.
Or anything else that involves a lot of writing to storage, that's where you see the performance hits. So, the kind of use cases that you would have if you have a reason to invest in a Windows 11 Pro license to begin with.
And it's on by default. I don't know if there's actual recommendations in the article, but like, what do you think the balance is? Because obviously it's a security thing. It's in place for security reasons, which is important. Don't just, throw aside security concerns. But also, if you're going to lose all this performance, like, what do you feel personally is that equation of like, oh man, I do want to keep myself secure, but I don't want to screw myself in performance?
Personally, if you have a business laptop, it's for work from your company. If it has Windows 11 Pro, it's going to be on. And that, to me, is a situation where you would want to leave it on because that could easily get stolen. Personally, I think the happy medium would be not even using BitLocker and instead, especially on a home PC, like you don't have to worry about someone breaking into your house and running away with your home PC. That could happen, but as long as you have a password on there, you're probably fine. It's more probably applicable to laptops.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you're not full of sensitive NDA files or anything like that all over the place. And even if you are, I would, rather than running full disk encryption, I would download something like the awesome VeraCrypt tool, which is a third-party open source encryption tool, and use that to encrypt certain files and folders instead, so that the files you need to be protected are protected, but it's not your entire disk getting hit with that encryption every time you read or write anything to storage. So that's what I would do, if possible.
Yeah. Well, once again, like you said, I mean, if you're already on a pro license, which I think that's mostly people who are using it for work. I mean, I don't know. I guess I see some people be like, oh, I just get pro because you might as well get the best thing of Windows.
It's nice having, Hyper-V. It's nice having, I love Windows Defender Sandbox. But I have a work laptop with the Windows 11 Pro, and I'm always like, how is this as slow as it is? And now I wonder if this is part of it.
Interesting. Yeah. Mike, have you ever experienced any problems with your system being slow because of this?
I've definitely had the slowdown on that work laptop, which is, a Core i7 16 gigabyte RAM system that should scream at just about everything and does not. I thought it was just because some of our IT tools were, not made with speed in mind, but I might have to check that out.
That's a nice way of saying it.
The question I've got here is, we're working with Windows and with SSDs that have encryption as part of their hardware, and Windows can see that and knows that, but apparently Microsoft has made the very deliberate decision to not use those tools, and I'm wondering if that's the best way to go about it for them. I mean, it seems kind of like a control freak decision on their part. Just like we want our tools and we trust our tools way more than the storage manufacturers.
Yep. we ran a translated version from our sister site, PC Welt, and they speculate there's been issues in the past where the SSD hardware encryption tools that are not from BitLocker have had bugs in them before. And they just had glaring bugs open for a while before they were patched. So they speculate over at PC Welt that this might have been the response to that, because this wasn't the default before. In Windows 10 Pro, turning on software BitLocker was not the default. You had to go in there and manually do it. Then all this stuff happened, and now it's the default. So I don't know. For me personally, I think the best situation, if you already got a pro licensing system, you presumably know somewhat what you're doing, or your laptop's being configured by an IT elf who knows what they're doing. And you could just set up the options to begin with. Hey, Windows 11 Pro offers software, encryption. That'll be, easy to recover if you need to. Might affect storage, but it'll keep your device safe. We also offer hardware-based BitLocker. Doesn't affect the performance whatsoever, but has X, Y, and Z advantages. Or we've detected you have a Samsung SSD in there. If you want, you can go download Samsung's Magician software and do it through there. Like, to me, if you're already running a Pro OS, give some Pro level options.
Right. Yeah. Which goes back to that whole, if you already know that you need Pro and you're going to use those features, for one reason or the other, you're probably somebody who's a little more educated and can configure it themselves. But this is on by default, which I think is the harder part. Is a lot of people don't realize that.
And it might be worth checking out if you're a gamer at home, because some people do opt for Windows 11 Pro. A lot of pre-built systems that are sold as high-end gaming systems and whatever systems come with Windows 11 Pro installed. And if it's hitting data that hard, I mean, that could definitely impact performance in open world games, for example. Those are constantly streaming data from the disk. I would just check it out, poke around, see what's up. On PCWorld.com, we have an article about this that goes in and tells you what command line things to use to turn it off, turn it on, stuff like that, so you can play around. And if you have it installed, you're a gamer who plays a lot of, especially open world games, I would, poke and prod.
Did they make this change for Windows 10 Pro as well, or is this just Windows 11?
According to Jared Walton's article over at Tom's Hardware, it's just Windows 11. I trust Jared's data more than my own, though. We've had him on the show a few times. He's a smart dude.
Well, just another reason why I will continue to stick with Windows 10 for my work machine then. I'll take it. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I wonder if that will change. I wonder if there will be any pushback to Microsoft, and Microsoft's like, oh wait, no, hold on, we don't. It doesn't have to be a default thing.
I find it interesting that it was never noticed until now. I wonder if that speaks about what sort of workloads that Windows 11 Pro users do, whether or not people are paying that close attention to reviews versus what you're seeing. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that's been 2 years or whatever since Windows 11 came out, Windows 11 Pro, and just now is when it's like, oh, hey.
Well, and the big question I had, just for my own personal reasons, is actually the same one friend of the show, Rurutu, has here on YouTube. Will this affect benchmark scores on CPU reviews? I actually didn't run Pro. I ran normal Windows 11 Home on the systems that I had, but Gordon usually does Pro. But also, I mean, I think that's something he would double check is BitLocker on or off, or that kind of thing. So yeah, so I don't know. I am curious to know. I mean, yes, it would affect it. I mean, it depends on it. I'm sorry, it depends on the benchmark, right? I mean, Cinebench is not gonna, you're not gonna see any tangible difference there. But yeah, interesting.
It would depend on the benchmark. Like for example, if you're doing PC Mark's productivity one and it's cycling through the Excel spreadsheets and the videos and stuff, that obviously hits storage in some way. But
or
since it's the
7-zip.
exact same benchmark application being used across all the chips, so they're being used in the same way, just with different chips. So I think it would still reflect the difference between them.
True. Yeah.
I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but if I was testing CPUs with Windows 11 Pro, I would definitely check this out.
As long as it's consistent. Because I mean, that's the thing, is that some people reuse older numbers, and if those older numbers have it off, but the newer numbers have it on, then that is not consistent, and that that is hard to gauge across. But yeah, if everything was tested with it on, then at least as long as it's noted, hey, it's on, performances could be impacted here and there. Yeah, that is interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess we'll keep watching the situation and see if there's any change, and we will alert you, fine folks.
I would be so bummed if I spent up for like a Samsung 990 Pro and Windows 11 Pro, and the combination dropped that 990 Pro just right back down to average or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's switch over to Q&A. I do have some questions to get to. If you have any questions right now and you're watching us live, get them in the chat at PC World. That's kind of the easiest way for us to see it. Or if you're listening or watching this later, there is a link over to our awesome Discord with some a channel in there that you can put in your questions, and hopefully we'll get to them on the show. The first one I want to get to is actually a super chat from friend of the show, VC Jester. It's not a question, just a fun comment. It's $5. Thanks so much. Always appreciated. Said, whichever company develops a driver that automatically covers ads with funny cat videos gets our $1. Develops a driver.
At least somebody make a Chrome extension for that at the very least.
I know, right? And I'm trying to think. What was it? It was Burnout Paradise that tried to say it was going to dynamically change the billboard ads in the game, right?
Yep.
Was it? Yeah.
Oh, there have been many games that have done that.
Yeah.
And that was, if I remember right, that's an EA game, and that's something that they developed for a long time. Used in a lot of boxing games, I think some football games as well, which from the perspective of like immersion, it's interesting because that's a real thing that happens in real sports. Yeah. So why not do it in a sports game?
Yeah.
But it's still kind of gross advertising stuff. So yeah.
I mean, but if it's just cats, then I am totally in.
Right.
Take my money.
And I mean, Adam's money, my
just
money.
Advertise the same stuff. Give me the same products and just fill them with cats demonstrating the product.
Hey, yes, I like that. Actually, that's pretty funny too.
That's good.
Technicolor Tube says Battlefield 2042 has Logitech ads on billboards. So I had no idea.
Again, another EA
game. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. We got a £5 thank you super chat again. From Space Channel 5, says I installed 11 Pro from ISO 2 months ago, and BitLocker was off. We should reiterate this was a recent change, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. It might be.
Okay.
Again, I didn't test it myself. This is off a report from Tom's, and some other people have done some other things. But yeah, it's a relatively recent change. And if you're upgrading, it would also presumably hold your preferences from Windows 10.
I wouldn't assume that, though. I'd double check.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get to a question over here on the Discord. This is a fun one. I was hoping Elena could be here for this one. Maybe we'll ask it again next episode. But friend of the show, VC Jester, asks, how many Black Friday / Cyber Monday items have you bought due to price, but you haven't used them yet? I think he's relating to Gordon buying a huge SSD and then immediately regretting it, and then also never using it. Mike, what kind of items have you just picked up? Like, oh man, this is a great deal, and then you just haven't released it at all.
I don't think I've done that in several years at the very least.
Really?
I've been trying to limit my impulse buying, especially for those big sales, to something that I can actually justify. I'm not going to say I needed everything, but yeah. The one thing that I picked up on this last one was my favorite little portable battery here, which I think I recommended in one of our articles. And I love this design because it has all of the cables that you need built right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it plugs right into the wall.
Oh, wow. Okay, I've never seen that. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's so handy. It's wonderful. So yeah, if you Google search on PC World, you can find my recommendation because it's got some crazy name. Vrurc, VRURC, Vrg.
I was like, "Are you okay? Were you choking
yeah.
my
No, that is the actual brand name. Good grief. Yeah,
Klingon.
it's
Yeah.
there are several different manufacturers that do similar stuff like that, but I love how handy it is. You don't need anything else. You can charge up everything with one little bitty thing. It's great.
Brad, any impulse buys that you just have not used?
No, I'm a single dad and prices are getting high everywhere, so I tactically buy when I go in stuff. Two things I did buy, but I just bought something. I haven't started using it yet during Amazon Prime Day 2. The
The
Prime
sequel.
but only because I got it just 2 or 3 days ago.
Uh-huh.
I decided to become a watch guy, but in the nerdiest way possible.
Uh-huh.
I had my eye on it in a tab for a year. Price never dropped enough till Prime Day 2. I got a sweet gold tone Casio watch
Ooh.
with full calculator with memory and
Wow.
all that
Oh,
stuff.
I always
So,
wanted one of those calculator watches as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I got one of those gold tone. I got some new sunglasses to match it, and I'm gonna be rolling around in the coolest, least cool way possible.
In the most elder millennial way possible.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
So I haven't used those yet, but they're coming soon.
Willis, anything you bought and you're like, oh wow, okay, I never end up using this.
Several Black Fridays ago, I bought a Switch, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was a bundle that came with a Spyro trilogy, and
Okay.
I still haven't played that game yet. So backlog games, still just a bunch of backlogs.
Backlog
Yeah.
games, yeah.
What about you, Adam?
God, I'm sure there's plenty of things for me personally, but I will say, especially around those deals, I end up buying stuff here and expensing it for like, I'm going to do this in a build or I'm going to test this out, and it's just like, oh boy, all right, well crap, I never got to that. So definitely guilty of it, using the company's money. That's for sure.
You're not supposed to say that
I know.
part out loud on the
Yeah.
podcast, Adam.
No, but I will be using some of it tomorrow. We got a live build,
Yes.
really high end system. You're gonna want to see this. This is like, ooh, wow, it's beautiful. Gonna take the time to make it beautiful too. Yeah.
What time?
1 p.m. Pacific is probably when we're gonna do
All right.
So yeah, tune in. We got that. This all started because Asus lent us that 30 or 4090, the ROG Matrix
Matrix.
Platinum.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we're going to put that in, but also something we've been doing the past couple builds that people have been liking is doing a choose your own adventure thing.
Hmm.
So I bought in 2 different cases. I've got so people are going to be able to pick the case, real high end, nice cases, and then the platform for the CPUs, 14th gen or 7950X or 60X3D, 7950X.
Like in real time and polls and stuff like that?
Yes. Yeah. No,
Oh,
it's
man,
been fun.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
The last time we did it was my small form factor box that I'm using for gaming. I let them pick between a 4080 and a 7900 XTX. So yeah, like people seem to enjoy that. So yeah, tomorrow it's going to be fun. That'll be fun. So, and actually I am planning, one of the things I want to plan on is like an all user made real time. Like, hey, I've got these 2 different options that you can go. I mean, as long as they're compatible, then yeah, we're gonna vote on it real time. So
That's fun.
yeah, it should be fun. Anyway, we got another awesome question from friend of the show, VC Jester. It's kind of a trolling question, but so when Intel says a socket will be supported by next gen CPUs, we can assume the next generation will be refreshed. Not always. But yes, I guess.
I mean,
Why not? Once again, in my reviews, it's like I yeah, they were uninspiring, but okay, cool. I mean, I'd rather have them do something, I guess, than nothing until Arrow Lake. So if God, yeah, I mean, it's so weird because I feel like refreshes aren't always on the table, CPUs or GPUs, right? It's just like, hey, how long until the next one? Hey, do we have anything to really refresh? So, yeah.
man, while we're on that topic, if you watched last week's episode, you already know what we think of the Intel refresh. Meh. But the redeeming qualities I said out loud, and some other people said out loud on the show last week, is that it has some new features like Wi-Fi 7 and Thunderbolt 5. The day after the news embargo and the reviews came out,
Yes.
Intel put out a correction and said these Raptor Lake refresh parts won't actually support Thunderbolt 5 whatsoever.
These ones, yes.
So that's a massive bummer on top of the very meh refresh.
Yeah.
Just in case you haven't heard that.
And I did read an article. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but I believe it was on Tom's Hardware about some Reddit user using that new software, the APO software, and showing performance improvements. I think it was Rainbow Six Siege, and God, what was the other game? I can't remember. It was two games.
Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. Those are the only two games that support that right now.
Oh, I thought there was one more game that Intel hadn't showed on that slide. Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, like it was essentially, oh yeah, it's working. Okay, cool. I mean,
It looked like it worked pretty well, at least in that user's test.
Yeah.
The Reddit guys, it was up to like 30%, I think I want to say,
Yeah.
right around 30% in Rainbow Six Siege.
but also for
Which
Siege
brings it from like 500 frames
to
per
like
second
800
to
or
like
something.
700.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh wow, okay, great. But yeah.
It's cool. I mean, it's a cool proof of concept. We'd have to see it in more games and, more popular games, I would think, before
Yeah.
we can really recommend it too hard. But it's cool if it works like that.
Also, I mean, the biggest question I'm having is like, okay, well, how are they doing that? Obviously they're probably dynamically boosting something. Are they disabling E-cores? Are they like what are there parking cores, or what the hell are they doing? Because I also on the flip end, I want to see power draw. Like, is this like, oh yeah, okay, you get this extra performance, but this thing is juice and power.
I'm sure it's going to.
Yeah, I just fully don't understand what's going on here yet. So, and I haven't got my hands on it. So
I can't cite the source because, again, this is just something I was reading earlier. But they were saying that Roger Chandler, I believe it was from Intel, was saying that it's basically a more advanced version of the technology that Thread Director is built on.
Mhm.
So it's like taking all the different signals in and super optimizing it. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Wait till a few more games are out, poke and prod it a little bit harder. But
could be interesting. But also, once again, just for 14th gen, right? I think it was locked.
not even just 14th gen, I think it's just the 900, possibly the 700K too. Like it's just the upper end chips.
Be interesting. We'll be interested. Maybe it's just like a beta for something that's going to be heavily used in Arrow Lake. I don't know. We will see. A quick little question from MTK over on Discord. Did you tweak Brad's audio recently? Seems like he's much clearer yesterday, referring to last week's episode. No, maybe your internet was better. I don't know.
I've been pretty sick for a while, and that wasn't last week, so maybe that's it.
Who knows? Let's see. Is there any more questions that we can pop on here? Here's a good one, laptop related from friend of the show, Dark Helmet. I was looking at my local Micro Center, and all the gaming laptops priced between $1,500 and $2,400 had 8 gig GPUs, and 27 out of the 29 models had screens at 480p or above. Given the recent publicity in the tech space around 8 gigabyte VRAM video cards, what do you think it will take to break the logjam of gaming laptops with this amount of memory? Or am I just a snob?
95% probably of laptop GPUs coming from NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is notoriously skimpy on memory. So what it will take is hopefully a new generation. May take 2. Who knows?
Well,
You deal with compromises like that when you get laptops as opposed to desktops, unfortunately.
yeah,
Like they really worry about power, and VRAM does use a decent amount of power in laptops. So I can get why they kind of do that, but yeah, it's just going to take new NVIDIA generations, and hopefully NVIDIA bumps it up next time.
it is interesting. I do feel, and maybe I'm missing this. Maybe this is just a blind spot, but I do feel like a lot the people who are the most vocal about the VRAM limits are talking about desktop GPUs versus laptop GPUs, but the same thing applies over there. I think what happens is that, yeah, I mean, a 4070 laptop is already not a normal 47 or a desktop version of the 4070, so it's power constrained. You know, it can be the cut down die, and also it's using less VRAM. So, but I mean, it is a good point. I think the other thing though is
a great point.
Yeah, I think the other thing though is that even though the screens are in 4K, I do wonder if a lot of people will just play at 1080p, because I mean, you're on a smaller screen. Like the benefits of jumping from, you know, from 1080 to 1440 to 4K on a gaming laptop that is no more than 17 inches. Like at that point, I wonder if people just default to bumping down the resolution for gaming.
I really like, obviously I wasn't in the store where this person was at, but I really think that screens on gaming laptops have actually gotten a lot more reasonable in recent generations. It used to be they would throw 4K on everything and just upcharge the hell out of you if you didn't want a cheap 1080p panel. But now, you know, 1080p high refresh rate, like 1080p 144 hertz is the default. Like even in 4050 laptops, you see that. And we're seeing a lot more 1440p laptop screens too. I think that came out with the 30 series. Yeah, NVIDIA worked with 30 series to have that happen. So worked with the whole industry to get more 1440p ones out there. So I'm actually encouraged that there's a lot fewer 4K gaming laptops than we used to see. It used to be crap 1080p or super expensive 4K, and now the whole mid-ground's there.
Yep.
But yeah, that sucks about the memory.
Friend of the show, Ziv. Did we ask this last week? Do you think we'll start to see dedicated AI cards inherit or supplant the role of graphics cards in the future? Did we talk about that last week? I can't remember.
I had to bounce before the
the Q&A. Okay.
Q&A.
Maybe that's why I was holding it for you, Brad. Double.
I do think AI and upscaling and stuff like that is going to become more important as time goes on, even in gaming graphics. We could see supplementary cards, but I think that would get very confusing. Like right now, it's really hard to get multi-GPU rendering just because of the complexity of just like, do we split this between frames? How do we do this? How do we do that? I would think that having a separate AI built-in card as you're trying to use that to upscale visuals in real time could present some real problems. So I wouldn't be surprised if AI gets built more into graphics cards and we slowly start to see the space of the die shift more towards the AI side. But I'm not sure that we will see AI add-in cards specifically to enhance gaming. We might see it for something like machine learning or something like that. But I just would think that would be very difficult to pull off in real time at 240 hertz, 500 hertz a second we're getting from some monitors these days.
Yeah, I think something like, you know, supplementary processors, extra bits on the die, adding in this capability is a lot more likely than having separate dedicated hardware.
AI.
Yeah, like rendering games is real hard. There's a reason, like everyone's like, "Ooh, AMD's going to chiplets," and they did, and it's going to give them cost savings. That's great, but the chiplets that we have in Radeon are very different than the chiplets that we're seeing on the desktop, where they're actually separate chiplets. This is the memory chiplets are off the side on Radeon. Because it is very difficult, especially with modern engines. Crossfired and SLI things used to be more common, but now everything's so precisely tuned that it just doesn't make sense. It's incredibly difficult. AMD and NVIDIA both said they've been working on trying it for a while. I hope they crack it. But yeah, I don't think AI cards, because once you factor in that whole thing in there, that seems way too complicated to me.
Yeah, you got to have some sort of use. I mean, something, I think it was Keith and I were talking about recently, which somebody asked where Keith has been. I do have a video. It's waiting on me to get pushed live that Keith has finished a couple weeks ago. I just got buried in the CPU stuff, so Keith is still making videos for us. But the idea of being able to have like a in the past, at least when I was doing a lot of game streaming, I had one machine dedicated to gaming and one machine dedicated to streaming. That's very, typical use case for a lot of professionals doing that. But I kind of wanted to try, okay, well, what if you throw in like a A580 or an A380, something like that, just to handle the AV1 encoding, but the gaming is all run on the CPU or the GPU or the main gaming graphics card. Like what would that look like? Is that doable? I talked a little bit to Adam from Epos Vox about this, and he said especially in like newer versions of OBS, it's gotten a lot better, that it is feasible. So so that's not a pure AI idea, but like some sort of add-in card, that like I could see some sort of future like that where it's like, okay, it's maybe not for the gaming, but maybe it helps upscale it or stream it out,
I remember like 10 years ago, NVIDIA was able to isolate like the physics processing onto a secondary GPU, even if it was like an older and weaker one. And because it didn't need that much, but it was enough to let you boost your primary performance off of it. Maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm. A couple more questions and we'll get out of here. Let's go with this one. It's a little specific. Hopefully I can pare this down. This is from friend of the show, Drew, over on Discord. I currently have an RTX 4080 laptop, and it honestly performs amazingly. I got it for the portability, but have realized that I usually just use a dock at home, so it's been a PC for me in that sense. At the same time, my inner enthusiast really wants to sell this laptop to work towards a 4090 desktop rig. Really hard to justify the purchases. Do you think 12 gig of VRAM on the 4080 laptop paired with a 13th gen Intel chip, which sounds like it's a 13900HX, will be fine for at least until NVIDIA's 5000 series GPUs, which, as we know, the roadmap looks like 2025. So they should say fine for them being me in 120-ish FPS at 1440p. So do you think their 4080 laptop with a 13900HX is going to be fine for a couple years?
Yeah, that's high-end that's high-end hardware at both ends. The 4080s are closer to 4070s in real life. Or not in real life. The mobile
4080 laptop
are closer to 4070 desktop. So, I mean, if you're just got deep pockets and you're into it and you can flip that thing and do enough to get a 4090 desktop, you definitely would see some performance benefits. But that card and that chip are going to do just fine for you for the next year and a half. Those are both high-end parts.
And I mean, with any piece of hardware, especially as it ages, I mean, it's not that it's just going to stop working. Maybe you'll have to bump back some visual settings or something like that to get that kind of performance. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one of the things that bugs me about all this like VRAM stuff is that people are acting like it's like, oh man, if you have 12 gigs of VRAM, whatever next year's game is just not going to run on it. And it's like, no, that's not the case. You're going to have to do a little bit more of the heavy lifting on your end to configure it to, run well. But yeah, it's not like it's just all of a sudden just not going to work. So.
Yeah, I mean, in games that you bump into where it starts stuttering like bad, like that is a deal breaker. But they're very few and are far between, and mostly at 4K. If you're worried about hitting 120 FPS at 1440p with that setup, like I have no concerns. 12G should do you just fine.
Okay.
Especially if you play on high. People in the know play on high instead of ultra. It looks pretty much the same and gets you a lot extra FPS.
Especially for a laptop. Although he said it was docking, so
yeah. Yeah, a desktop replacement. All right, last one to come in here, I think, and then we will get out of here. Friend of the show, Ivan Ramanazov. One of these days I'm going to learn to say it right. I think it's time to ask this question again. Does the PC have a future? As in a big box PC. With constant attacks from laptops and phones, why should somebody want a PC today or in 5 years from now? Is it only for the upgradability? Is that the only reason why a desktop has a place? Mike?
Do you want to go first, Mike?
Sure. I mean, we were hearing a lot of this same talk like 10 years ago, and I don't think the situation has really changed. If anything, people have gotten more interested and invested in the desktop PC space, even if we don't see that in terms of like the total marketplace, just because the total marketplace is not the same community that we see looking in for, performance in terms of either PCs or laptops. even with like the rise of streaming stuff over the various services, I haven't seen a whole lot of people say, hey, I don't need this anymore, or even I don't want this anymore. I would say within the next 5 years, there's just no real danger of this community, of this segment going away.
I mean, one maybe pushback is that, hey, GPU sales, historically over the past 10 years have been going down, right? We saw that report, but does that give you worry, Brad?
No, not whatsoever. Tablets were supposed to kill the PC. Phones were supposed to kill the PC. Game consoles were supposed to kill the PC. The pandemic pricing was also supposed to kill the PC. It did hurt the PC.
It hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Broke a rib.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. There's you can get unique, not just the power that you can get in a PC, like that frag box that you're sitting there, like no other device can match that, and there's a lot of workloads for that. But not even that, for normal folks, sitting at a dedicated machine with a mouse and a keyboard or a gamepad is a very different experience from all the things that are supposedly supposed to be killing off the PC. And I think that ergonomic factor has a lot of staying power that a lot of these pie in the sky analysts miss. Like sitting down at your monitor with your keyboard is worthwhile.
Docking a really high-end laptop like the previous question, I mean, that is not like laptops are, oh boy, wow, they can get damn powerful.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how powerful. Again, I've been doing this for a while. Gaming laptops now just were not fathomable 7 years ago. I think if anything ever does usurp the PC, it would be cloud PCs. It would be virtual Windows versions where you still stream it to a little stick, but you still have your setup, possibly subscribe to GeForce Now, but then it's still PC gaming just without the box. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because, as we just saw, my internet crapped all over itself right as we're starting to do this podcast.
Yeah, and I mean, they say they put upgradability, like, is that the only thing? But I would not discount that as not a major thing. I mean, that is a huge thing because we're not, like, laptops is a closed system, yes, when we're talking about the GPUs and the CPUs, but we're talking about the everything else around it, right? It's got a built-in screen, it's got a built-in key. I don't know how many people like dock a laptop versus actually just use a laptop. But I mean, like the upgradability, and maybe another word to say is like customizability, because I feel like a lot of times I'll look at laptop specs and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what if you wanted a configuration like a bigger CPU but a smaller GPU, or vice versa, or something like that? Usually you're kind of locked in lines, and a lot of times even each manufacturer kind of has the same kind of configurations, and then you're just picking feature sets in between that. Where on a on a desktop system, I mean, you can pair whatever you want in there. You can get it as cool looking or not as you can. You can change it out. Upgradability is not a minor thing to just throw away. So and Dark Helmet, friend of the show, Dark Helmet, I mean, e-waste, right? Being able to swap something out and pass it down to a friend or a family member is a huge deal too. So
yeah.
And I was just thinking about it, speaking of my point about the form factor, the ergonomics, like historical data has always showed that as far as shopping goes, tons of people, they browse on their phones. Black Friday, the holidays, you look on your phones. But when it's time to actually buy, something like 80% of people move to a computer to buy it. And I think that just kind of gets to the point that I'm trying to make. Like, it's a very unique form factor and experience that can't be replaced even by something that you're already doing on your phone, comparison shopping. Then you go to your PC and open a bunch of tabs and look around and do different stuff. So,
or reading PCWorld.com.
Hey, there you go.
It's great.
Falcon Northwest is in chat saying, commenting, please see Gordon's Fragbox review from 20 years ago. I think the PC was declared dead 3 times between then and now.
Yeah, there's always something out for the PC. And I mean, I think worst case scenario, like, it's never going to be dead. Like say it continues to trend down, right? Who knows? Maybe just prices and just world conditions, like it continues to trend downwards. I think it'll always be around, and there's always going to be a need for it. Gordon likes to poo-poo somebody, who like still shoots on film for like, still photo cameras and stuff like that. But like yes, film is not selling as much as its heyday, but there's still a lot of people who love to shoot on film. There's a reason to have it around. I mean, Polaroid still exists. People love, certain things. So worst case scenario, it just becomes more of a niche kind of thing, which, I mean, honestly, it kind of is already a niche thing. If you look at all computer sales, like laptops is still the bulk majority of it. But yeah, I don't think it's ever going to go away. Worst case, it just becomes a niche thing. My 2 cents.
And the film is a great example there, because I believe film is actually going up in sales versus what it was like 5 or 10 years ago, just because of the transition to digital cameras.
Same thing.
And we saw a bit of that.
Records.
Yeah. We saw a bit of that in the pandemic. Everybody's like, "Hey, I've got my work from home set up. Let's get a real full power PC going." And we've got us. And then it was impossible to find a graphics card.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. The PC is not dead. It is alive and well, especially here on PC World, where we're all about the PC.
Oh,
yeah. I think. Is there anything else that I missed, Willis? Anything else? Nope. Okay. Then I think we should wrap it up. A little bit of a shorter show than usual, but let's wrap it up. And remember to tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific, for a live build, a real high-end, beautiful live build. We usually kind of mix things up, but I don't know if I've ever done a high-end live build like this. Like, just, it's gonna be real pretty. It's a showpiece kind of PC that I'm hoping to build. So hopefully it doesn't go 20 hours. Just kidding.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no. Anyway, let me get to the ending thing here. Check back next week for your fix of PC talk here on The Full Nerd. To listen to us on the go, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Podcasts, or anything that you can point your RSS feeder to. And if you have a second, please go on those services and review us. Every time you do, a PC gets its wings and stays alive. I don't know. Thank you, Brad Charkis, for hanging out with us despite your internet problems.
Yeah, it's a shame it was freaking out, because I was hoping to do this in the intro, but shout out to the dude who met my mom in a hotel.
Okay. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but Mike Kreider, thanks for joining us. People love when you're on, Mike. You're a good guy.
Oh, well, that's very gratifying to hear. I have a good time coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and thank you, Willis, for coming back. And even though you're sleep deprived, you're running the show. You did a fine job.
Thank you. I've been up since 6 a.m. actually. Ooh. So, one thing that I was learning in Duolingo for the trip in Germany that I didn't get to use is Ich bin ein Kartoffel. I am a potato. Yes, I am. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.